with the mics. Sorry. Oh, God. Right. I run my name's Claire Cordeaux. I run an organisation called BAPAM, which is the British Association for Performing Arts Medicine. We're a UK-wide charity which provides healthcare for musicians. We're funded by all these wonderful people here in order to provide that. We provide initial assessments and try and get people on the right care pathway. We also provide a lot of training, and we work with Help Musicians on Music Minds Matter to provide free therapy as well, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. So we're quite busy at the moment, as you can imagine. It's been a really hard time, hasn't it, over COVID, and you know, people struggling to get back to work. Mental health has gone through the roof. We used to see about 15% of people with mental health issues before COVID. It's now 40%. So it's slightly gone down in the last couple of months, which is a bit of a relief. But and hopefully it continues to do that. But yeah, there's a lot of need out there. So performance anxiety then, how many musicians suffer from it? Well, the literature says 59% of musicians suffer from performance anxiety, and 21% will suffer from it quite badly, quite severely. So it's actually quite normal, and I'm guessing you'll probably know that. But you know, if you do suffer from it, you're not on your own, and it's really important that everybody understands that it's likely that people will have that sort of an issue. And in fact, we've got a poster today to give out to put on the back of toilet doors and in the green room, and the sorts of places where you might need that advice immediately. And it was the tech guys last year, somebody who said, do you know what, it'd be so good to know what to do when you're backstage in that moment, having that terrible time. So we've got some advice on that. So what are the symptoms? Well, if you suffer from it, you'll know this. It's hard to focus. You start blushing, you've got tunnel vision, your chest feels tight, you get butterflies in your stomach, you need to rush to the loo every minute. All of those sorts of things are all common in performance anxiety, and they're very debilitating. You're about to go on stage to do the show of your lifetime, and all this stuff keeps happening. And it's a really horrible moment. And then after the show, it's like, I don't know, that was fine. It's a very odd thing. And so quite often you forget about it until the moment that it's happening and go, oh yeah, I really should do these things and try and make sure this doesn't happen. It's the fight or flight response, as you probably know, and that sort of reaction is totally the right reaction if you're being chased by a bear. But if you're about to go on stage to do the thing that you love, it's not very helpful. But it's what the body does when it thinks that it's under threat. So it's sort of it's a very useful response when you need it, but you need it in the right place. So what's going on? I don't know if you've ever seen this graph before. It's the Yerkes-Dodson graph, and it just explains performance and demands and what actually happens. So we all need a bit of stress to get motivated. There's no point going on stage and can't be bothered. And you know, you don't want that. You don't want to be too relaxed. You want to be in the moment. You know, up for it. But if you have too much, then it can be very, very difficult. So it's worth sort of looking at this kind of curve. So you've got the performance on the left there, and then underneath are the demands. And so, you know, that optimum level of stress is what you're aiming for. And I have a colleague, one of my doctor colleagues, who works with us, and she calls it the fizziness score. And she suggests people ask, you know, how fizzy are you? If you're not fizzy enough before you go on stage, you know, march on the spot, get yourself going, get yourself adrenalized a bit. If you're too much, then you've got to try and bring it down to a sort of optimum point so that you're in that green zone. And it is a balancing act. You want to be in the right place. And, you know, if you suffer from this, you'll know when you're on stage waiting to go on, there is this balancing. At one moment you're feeling, yeah, that's it, I'm there. Oh, no, it's gone too high. Oh, no, I've got to wait a bit longer. Oh, no, they've got to, you know, and there's all the waiting that goes on. So you've got to try and learn some techniques to try and balance yourself in order to get to that optimum level of stress. Does that make sense? Great. So underneath all of this, performers may have a level of general anxiety going on, not necessary, but there are quite a lot of characteristics that performers have which might cause you to be more likely to have performance anxiety. So quite a lot of people are people pleasers, so worrying about what people are thinking, multitasking, and particularly when you're about to go on stage, there's lots of things to do, if you haven't got enough time to set up, then you're worrying about that. Also, if you only measure your self-worth by the completion of sort of external tasks, then that doesn't necessarily help. And a lot of performers are perfectionists. And we know that there's no such thing as perfection. The performance is different every night. Everything is different, but people hold themselves to very, very high standards and worried about falling short of that. And then imposter syndrome. Does anybody know? Imposter syndrome, yeah. Not believing that you're good enough, or somebody's going to find you out in, what am I doing here? All of that sort of thing. So some of those things are underpinning what's going on in that moment before you go on stage. So there is some advice on what you can do in the moment, and the evidence says that breathing is a really good way to deal with things. And there are lots of different breathing techniques that you can use, and I'm sure you know some of them. But would you like to have a go at this one? Yep. Okay. So can you just sit in your seat, uncross your legs, and just balance yourself so you're nice and comfortable, feet flat on the floor. And what we're going to do is follow, imagine that yellow dot's going to travel around the square. So you're going to breathe in for 4, you're going to hold it for 4, you're going to breathe out for 4, and then you're going to hold it for 4. Okay? Right. So, breathe in, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold, 1, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Everyone didn't run out of breath? Okay, do you want to try that one more time? Okay, in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. Right, shake yourself a bit now. Well done, thank you. So that's called a box breath, and it's quite often used by pilots, by athletes, sports people, before they do something stressful. And it's quite a good technique. There are lots of different breathing techniques. If that one doesn't work for you, if you look on the NHS website, they've got lots of suggestions of different breathing techniques. But breathing does help to ground you, bring you back into some sort of balance. And doing that sort of 2 or 3 times is quite helpful. Another thing you can do is to focus your attention on something outside yourself. So if your anxiety is internal, and if you keep looking internally, it's going to feed it. So what you really want to do is to look at something. So look at the chandelier, for example, and just focus on it. And it's big and pretty and shiny and sparkly, and tell yourself all of those things, and just look at that one thing and describe it to yourself. And what it does is it's taking your attention away from yourself. And it's easy, you can fix on anything. So these are things that you can do backstage. And as you know, backstage is a variable place. And it's not always easy to go and find somewhere quiet, but these are things that you can do. Also, talk to yourself positively. Quite often when we're in an anxious state, we tend to say very negative things like, oh God, it's going to be awful. Oh no, what happens if I do this? What if I do? What if I forget what I'm supposed to play? What if I throw up on stage? All of those sorts of things, which are really unlikely to happen, but you'll be telling them to yourself as you're going through your anxiety. So try and have some positive phrases to say. I can't wait for them to see the show. all of those things. And there's exercises you can do in advance to try and work out how to frame something positively that you would normally say negatively. And the brain's very good at remembering don't words, all the negative things, but it's not so good at fixing on the positive things. So if you can try and get some positive phrases that you'll repeat to yourself, then that will help. Visualization is also important. So visualize your successful performance, and just think now what it's like when everything's going well. You're on stage. I'm just looking at the guys at the back. You've got your sunglasses on. You're absolutely smashing it, which is what you did last night. And the audience are loving you. They're shouting for more. It couldn't be better. This is what you do it for. And I just think how that is for you on stage, and feel how your body is, like when you're thinking that. Very often you'll find your posture changes. I was thinking about it as I was saying, I found my knees were bending. I was starting to, oh yeah, this is great. And my body changed. So try and feel that posture in the moment when you're backstage. Change your body shape, your body posture, to how your best self is on the stage. It's really difficult to tense up when your knees are bent. It's like if you throw your arm at the back of the chair and take on a sort of really relaxed stance, it's very, very hard to be that anxious when you're like that, because it's not how you normally are when you're anxious. So you can trick your body. So try and think about that, and then try and copy. The other thing that you can do is some physical warm-ups as well. That's to help you go to build yourself up, but sometimes it can also help because it's a distraction from what's going on. I've got some leaflets down here called Don't Cramp Your Style, which gives you some warm-up leaflets, which of course you're going to be physically warming up before you go on stage anyway, aren't you? So you can use those, and that's a good distraction. So shake out your muscles, jump up and down. Some people do this as a group activity, so that can also help. So that's some of the things that you can do in the moment whilst you're backstage. And then in the medium term, practice those techniques. So it works much better if you know how to do them. So when you're in that moment backstage, you're thinking, oh yeah, how did that breathing thing go? Just know how to do it. So you've got the tools in the toolbox, you've got your cables in your bag, you've got your relaxation techniques with you. So so all of those techniques I've talked about, think about. But also doing things like yoga can be very helpful, meditation, those sorts of things. So if you don't have a mental practice like that, think about taking one up. You don't have to do it for long. Sometimes you only need to practice it a few minutes a day, really, just to keep it going. But it will help you. It will help your general mental health, but it will also help you in the moment of performance anxiety. Reframing negative thoughts. I've talked a bit about this. We have an exercise that we use, and we do a lot of training at BAPAM. We have an exercise where you write down the negative things you say to yourself, and then your job is to reframe them in a positive way, so that you can actually consciously go through that process of enable you to think about your thoughts positively and stop yourself from telling yourself that you're no good and it's all going to go wrong. Repetition is useful as well, and I know it's been so difficult over COVID, hasn't it? Because people weren't going out and playing live, so what you want to be able to do is to do this so it's normal. So if you've got your first show for 6 months, of course it's going to be difficult. If you were doing anything you hadn't done for 6 months, it would feel difficult. So the more that you can repeat things, the more you can practice them, even if it's just 2 small groups of friends or whatever it is, to make this seem normal, the easier it will be. And underneath all of that, I mean, this is a mental health issue. It can be a very in-the-moment mental health issue that you can resolve yourself with lots of these sorts of techniques. But if you find it's going on, do come and see us. There's a Music Minds Matter helpline. And there's some cards at the bottom here, which we've just got. So do take those, and you can call somebody, and it's a 24/7 service, and you'll be able to speak to a counsellor. And also we provide therapy, so what we'll do is we'll take some details and ask you to fill in a form to tell us about yourself, and then it gets assessed, and we check that Help Musicians would be happy to fund it, which if you're a musician they very often will, and then you could get 6 to 12 sessions for free, which is amazing, which is a fantastic service. And we'll also give you advice about what, you know, if you need to go to the NHS and that sort of thing. So that's what you can do about performance anxiety. I hope that's helpful. I've got some things down the bottom here, including this poster, and you're very welcome to take this. Has basically said what I've just said, and you can take that with you if you're you know people in a venue, or you have a venue yourself. Take it in there, put it in the green room, put it in behind the door in the toilets, so that people, when they're experiencing this in the moment, can get the help they need. Thank you for listening. Happy to take any questions.